going on, everybody? Welcome to the Speed Limit 155 live stream. I'm not going to call it a podcast because I don't know if I'm actually going to start this as a podcast, but you never know. I've got several other podcasts on other channels, so maybe if you're new to the channel, which probably you are because it's a new channel, welcome to Speed Limit 155. And if you guys are over from our main channel, which is Ghost Tactical, if you're interested in guns and all of that stuff, that's our main channel. It's called Ghost Tactical. If you want to go check that out, we invite you to do that as well. But we started this up because I've always been a big car person, but really just kind of wanted to start having some fun talking cars and getting maybe not away from the gun stuff, but just have some fun with the other part of my life. And I enjoy cooking and cars and guns and all that stuff. So we we started this channel up, and we're gonna have some fun with it. And yeah, so we're definitely going to be talking a lot of cars and all that stuff. So like I said, if you're out there in the live chat, welcome to the dark side. We hope to entertain you a little bit and talk cars. If you're out there, let us know you're out there by saying something in the live chat. We don't know that you're out there unless you do. So kind of give you a background. My name is Trey. My love of cars has started back when I was a kid. I remember my grandfather had a Trans Am, and I love that car. I really wanted that to be my first car, but it didn't happen. My first car was a 1965 Mustang, and I've had some really great cars in my life, so I'm really fortunate in that. Some interesting cars and some fun cars and all of that stuff. But yeah, my first car was a 1965 Coupe 289 engine in there. It was pretty good. I got it when I was 13. When my grandfather died, he left a little bit of money to maybe go buy a first car. So I found this Mustang and spent the next few years. It was in decent shape. I mean, it ran, but it needed some work and all of that. So we spent the next few years, my dad and I, and fixed it up and paint job and all that stuff, and got it ready to roll by the time I was 16. And had that, and then moved into my dad was a big Mustang person. I like Mustangs. I don't have a problem with Mustangs, but he was a big Mustang person. And so the next car was a 1990 Mustang 5.0 convertible, and that was the 25th anniversary model of the Mustang. So that was a pretty cool thing to have. Had the 65 Mustang up to about 10 years ago. We sold it to one of my daughter's friends when she was getting ready to turn 16, and loved the car and all that. Her dad was a car guy, so he was going to add power steering to it and all that stuff for her. And then had the 90 Mustang until probably about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. Probably maybe about 7, 8 years ago, actually. And then ended up with an 89 Jeep Wrangler. Loved that thing. That thing was a beast. Had it jacked up on Mickey Thompson's, had the lights on the bar up top. And was a fun little off-roading thing. I grew up in Plano, Texas, which is outside of Dallas. So there's a lot of ranch. A lot of friends had ranches and all that. We did a lot of fishing and all that stuff out on ranches. So having the Jeep was a nice thing to have back then. Then joined the Marine Corps and spent some time in the Marines. While in the Marines, I ended up getting a 95 Land Rover Discovery, and I love that vehicle. We had that for several years. Unfortunately, it was a 5-speed manual, which I love. Getting married and having a kid a few years later, my wife does not drive stick, so it was not practical. It was a great practical family vehicle, but she couldn't drive a stick, so we had to go and get something different. So yeah, if you're out there in the chat, like I said, first live stream we're going to do, I don't know if we're going to turn this into a podcast or not, but we're going to have some fun. If you're out there in the live chat, go ahead and say hello. We don't know that you're out there unless you do. But welcome to Speed Limit 155. Once again, my name is Trey. I live in Arkansas right now, grew up in Dallas, and background on cars, kind of going through my timeline with cars. So I had a 65 Mustang, had a 1990 Mustang 5.0 convertible, had an 89 Jeep Wrangler, Then moved into 95 Land Rover Clover Tech cards. Yeah, he says he much prefers manual. So do I. I've got a car now that's got a 6-speed manual, and I love it. My wife does not drive stick, so it's one of those things to where she's never really even been interested in learning. We've been married for almost 27 years, and she's never really been interested in learning. So it is what it is. And in today's day, you're not going to be able to find a whole lot of manuals that are out there unless you're talking sports cars. And even the sports cars now are more of the automatic manual transmissions with the paddles and all of that. You're not going to find too many actual shifter manuals. My buddy Clover, go check out Clover Tech. If you're interested in the gun side, like I said with Ghost Tactical, he's got a great gun channel there called Clover Tech. If you're into sports cards, trading cards and all that, not cars, but cards, go check out Clover Tech cards over there. I don't know if you want to jump in or not, but I'm going to put I guess, I mean, I can invite whoever I want because I can put the link up there if you want to jump in, bro. It is up to you. You gotta figure it. I'm on my phone, so it's kind of hard to figure some of this out. Let's go to here. Go to post a comment. There we go. So I don't know, Clover, if you've got time and you want to jump in, you're more than welcome to. There's the link to jump in. But yeah, so moved into the 95 Land Rover Discovery. Loved it. Had it for a few years, probably about 4 years. Once again, yeah, it was interesting. Like I said, we got rid of it because my wife couldn't drive stick, and with a family vehicle and all that. So we ended up from there graduating to a 1999 Lincoln Navigator, which is probably still today my wife's favorite vehicle that she had, and it was a beast. It was great. Had it for about 10 years. I don't know if he's going to jump in or not. He's a Ford guy for sure. Clover Tech is a Ford guy. Oh, show. He's a Mustang guy. He's got a Mustang, and he's well, if he jumps in, we'll let him talk about what he's got now. But he's got a pretty cool little car that they got a year or two ago, I guess. I think he's jumping in. There he is. Let's add him to the stream. What's up, bro?
Hey, man.
Yeah, we're just I'm talking a little bit about the kind of my car history as far as the lineup of the cars that I've gone through, and kind of ended at the 99 Lincoln Navigator they had for about 10 years because my wife couldn't drive stick, so she didn't. I think she loved the Land Rover, but she couldn't drive it. It was a 5-speed manual, which I love, but she couldn't drive it. And with a 2-year-old child, we went ahead and got the 99. In 99, we got a new Lincoln Navigator, which I loved, and she had that for about 10 years. And then I had a couple cars in between there for me, you know.
Yeah.
I ended up with a Pontiac G6 for a couple years with that thing. Tell you what, that had a little V6 in it, and that thing would motor. It would motor.
The Pontiacs were. I tell you what was the minivan? Remember the Pontiac minivan?
I remember the Plymouth one. I didn't know Pontiac had one.
Yeah, let me go look it up. Pontiac minivan. I got an aunt that had one. Transport.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Transport, I think is what it was. She had the souped up transport though. And it may not have been a transport, but I'm just saying she had picture this G6 but the minivan.
Okay. All right.
Right? This thing, the suspension, the handling, like this thing it was amazing for a minivan.
Yeah. Yeah, I had that G6 for a few years. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a fast little car that got really good gas mileage. And I got it for pretty cheap. A buddy of mine had a car dealership, and this came in on trade. It was maybe like 6 months old. I don't know. It was even like I don't even know if it was like an owner or it was one of those like demos that like people that worked for Pontiac, like they had as a company car for like 6 months. It only had like 4,000 miles on it, you know. So I got a really good deal on it. and I drove the shit out of it, and I really enjoyed it. It was fast, like it was fast and handled really well. But it was a Pontiac, so had a lot of little things like happen. Not with the engine or anything. It was just like little like pieces of plastic and all that stuff. But I enjoyed that car.
Yeah.
Um, and then got a Dodge Durango. Um, had that
Hey,
for a while. What's that?
I said the one with the alternator.
The one with
Or
the
the,
alternator, yeah. Clover actually saved my ass in Tulsa one time. We were at a show in Tulsa and going down the highway, my alternator went out. So we stopped at like this murder motel, if you will.
guys got any
And
weed?
yeah, seriously, like we were out in the parking lot and Clover, we had about 10 or 12 of us that were there, but
Yeah,
Clover,
define we. It was a group that these people talk about being bold, but yeah.
yeah, we had about 10, 12, at least maybe 15 people in this parking lot just hanging out. And I wouldn't say we changed the alternator. Clover changed the alternator on that thing. I'm not gonna lie, like so for real,
You held
like
one hell of a flashlight though,
I
man.
can hold a flashlight. I mechanically that is not my game. Like this is a true story. When I took the ASVAB for the Marine Corps, I basically aced it except for one section, and that was the mechanical side of things. And they literally told me I could have any job in the Marine Corps that I wanted except for a mechanic. They did not want me to be a mechanic in the Marine Corps, and I said that's fine because I don't want to be a mechanic. I'm completely illiterate when it comes to like
Now,
outside of like the basic stuff. I mean, changing a battery, changing the oil, spark plugs,
yeah,
stuff like that. I can do the basic stuff. But when you're talking about diving in and replacing stuff and diving into a carburetor or an engine, like that ain't my game.
yeah. Even some of that can get hectic. Now,
Yeah.
does how much does the Marine Corps actually do as far as mechanic?
Oh man.
Or is that do they
Oh,
because
that's a
I've
big
always
time job. That's a
is
big
it
time job. Oh
has that
yeah.
been a more recent thing? Because the reason I say that is because back in like the late 70s, early 80s, I had an uncle that was in the army, like all of my family's army.
Yeah.
Um, and he was in motor pool, and they worked on a lot of. To hear him talk, they worked on a lot of stuff for a lot of different branches, actually.
I can't speak towards that. I can just tell you I actually didn't even remember knowing many mechanics in the Marine Corps. But I can tell you, like, I mean, there's 27 different types of vehicles. There's Harrier jets. There's multiple kind of helicopters. All of those need mechanics. There's a bunch. Like mechanics, a big, big, big job in the Marine Corps because we can't go anywhere without mechanics.
Right.
So yeah, it's a pretty big job.
Well, you think
Um,
that they would bleed that over? I mean, they bleed people over from other branches for other things, right?
depends on the situation. Like when I was in Okinawa, um, there was a huge Air Force base on the island. So
Mm.
I most of the Marine Corps aircraft, the jets, the helicopters, and all that
Right.
were stationed at the Air Force base.
Maintained by them. Yeah.
So maybe they were maintained. There might have been a couple Marine Corps, mechanics down there, but they were probably
Right.
mostly. But like at Camp Pendleton, like there is no other, military base around that, so it's all
Ah,
self-contained.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to figure there's like I said, there's at least 27 different vehicles the Marine Corps has on top of the aircraft. So, and all of those are on base. There's got to be mechanics, and every unit has their own vehicle. So every unit has their own mechanics.
Right.
Um, where our office was in Pendleton is a big, huge compound. And at the far end of the compound was where we kept our Humvees and our 5 tons and deuce and a halves and all those stuff,
Hmm.
and we would go check those out, and they had a huge, I mean, an absolute enormous like garage, um, and they always had stuff in there getting fixed. So I mean, I don't know how many mechanics we had with our unit. Our entire unit was about 1,000 people, so it couldn't have been that many. But I bet you there was probably like 10 or 15. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Mechanics working
Yeah.
in any given time.
Yeah.
Like I said, we can't go anywhere, do anything without vehicles and aircraft and all of that. So it's a pretty big job. But for
Yeah.
me, yeah, no, that was not an option, which is fine because I didn't want to do it anyways. But yeah, so
Yeah.
Clover fixed my alternator in Tulsa, And the whole weed thing is funny because we were all sitting there in the parking lot, and it was you and Snum.
Well,
We
well,
had about four people trying to help at one time.
that's what I was fixing to say. Most of the people were sitting there. I
Yeah,
wasn't
most of
sitting
the
there.
people, there was a couple people that were helping you and all of that. I was holding a flashlight because I can't even spell alternator,
Yeah, I had to have
much
a
less
pry
fix it.
bar. I had to have a pry bar guy. I think G Webs was doing that, and then
Yeah,
I had
G
to
was
have a
doing that.
flashlight
Yeah,
guy. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So that's a pretty good pit crew, I guess.
right. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but we were doing that, and all of a sudden, this, like I said, it was at some sketchy murder hotel. It was pretty hilarious. Um, and as we're fixing that alternator, I say we very loosely. This car pulls up in the parking lot, and we're in Tulsa, and he goes, "Hey man, anybody got any weed?" And we're like, it was like the strangest, like most surreal thing.
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" We're like, "No, no." So
Right.
they drove off, and I was like, I mean, even if we did, not
And
saying that we did, but even if we did, we sure as hell weren't going to admit it to
well,
some like weirdo pulling up in a parking lot.
and isn't weed legal in Oklahoma?
I don't. I think it is. I don't know if it was in
Man, they're
2017, but
not. Yeah. Right. That's
I
true.
mean,
That's
I
true.
don't know. Even if it was legal, like, I
Still
mean,
weird.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
tell someone that I don't
Even more
know.
weird if it's legal, right? Like if it's
Right?
legal.
He can just go buy it anywhere.
But then again, I mean, how many people try to bum a smoke? Hey man, you got
This is
smoke?
true.
Like,
Yeah.
go to the store, dude. Like,
Right.
really, really?
But so that was a strange thing. But yeah. So, golly, I'm trying to think. About 10 years. Yeah, no, about 8 years ago, maybe 7, 8 years ago, I bought a Hummer, and I didn't drive it a whole lot. Just because at that time when I bought it cheap. Cheap. I got it for about 13, 14,000. But I got it for cheap because, especially back then, that's when gas prices were just like stupid. Just absolutely, like, even in Arkansas where gas is pretty cheap, it was pushing $5 a gallon. It was at the height of people were trying to get rid of SUVs and trying to get all that stuff. So I came across this one on Facebook Marketplace. It was about an hour from me, and went up and bought it, and I love it. Still have it. I actually split time now, so I ended up getting rid of the Durango. My daughter's friend uh, was in an accident, and something was going on with her insurance, and it was getting all screwed up. Because I really don't know. Anyways, I ended up like donating it to her, and I should say donate. I gave it to her like $1,000 to let her pay it over for a year. It was like $100 a month or something for a year. Basically gave it to her. It was still running okay, and it had like 150,000 miles. Actually, no, I'm sorry, it had over 200,000 miles, but it was still a decent vehicle for her. And so get rid of it. So I started driving the Hummer, and then picked up from a buddy of mine, picked up a BMW Z4 about a year ago. And I've always loved it. My buddy's getting ready to move to Cape Cod up in by Boston, and had a Corvette. I don't even know which model it was. One of the newer ones, at least from a couple years ago. Corvette had this and had a pickup, and up in Cape Cod, he was like, I really don't know if I need the Vet and the Beamer. And I was like, I've always loved the Beamer. And I was like, look, if you do decide that you want to get rid of it, let me know. Let me have first crack at it. And he's like, yeah, I'll probably just keep it. I was like, all right, we'll just think about it. So a couple weeks later, he called back and was like, hey, man, were you serious? I was like, absolutely. I love that thing. Always loved that car. And so he's like, yeah, if I'm going to sell it, I'd rather sell it to someone I know is going to take care of it and enjoy it and all that. So I ended up buying the Z4 from him, and I love that thing. So I split now. I split half the week, half the time the Hummer, half the time. I know that's kind of a weird mix, as a Hummer and a BMW sports car, but I'm a weird guy. I have different tastes and all of that stuff. So it is kind of weird to drive by my house and see a Hummer and a freaking BMW in the same driveway. And it's like, what the hell is this guy like? Make up your mind, bro. Make up your mind. So enjoying that. But speaking of which, I'm Clover knows I got iced in last week for about 4 days. We had about 6 inches of ice, and I live on top of a mountain, so I couldn't go anywhere. And so I'm watching YouTube and TV, and I'm watching a lot of YouTube and stuff, watching a lot of Cannonball stuff, and Um, a lot of, I don't know, like Vin Wiki and Tavarish and Hoovy's Garage and all those. Those are my favorite car channels. So I've been watching a lot of that stuff, and these ads keep popping up. And now I know why those ads are. Why people spend a lot of money on ads, Clover. I understand it now because I was a sucker. I started buying shit left and right. Bought a new radio for the BMW. Um, I bought this, and it is a Boss 7-inch touchscreen radio with Bluetooth and all that stuff. And it came in a couple days ago, so I'm going to be putting that in before I head out to Indianapolis in April. It's got a Bluetooth thing. Obviously, works for Android Auto and Apple Car or whatever it's called.
Wow.
So I got that. If you guys are interested, I put a link to it in Amazon link down below. I saw it on Amazon just tonight when I get that link. It's $189, which is a lot better than what I spent on it. I should have looked at it on Amazon before I went over it. Well, it's not the exact same one. So mine came with our rear camera. What do you call it? A camera that faces towards like
Backup cam. Yeah.
backup cam. So which the BMW doesn't have. It comes with it, so it's I can put that in there wired in, and I'll have a backup cam. The one that I put a link in the Amazon link does not have the camera, but it's a floating screen 7-inch. They have a 7-inch, a 9-inch, and a 10-inch. I want the 7-inch because I think maybe 10-inch in that small car would just look weird. I want the 7-inch with this one for sure. And it comes with a lot of stuff. At least the ones that I got it from Crutchfield. So, but they came with this because the BMW stock radio is a really long one. It's a single DIN radio, but it's a long. This one is not very long, so it's got this thing that comes with it. You had to put your car in, and it covers up the holes. It's like a bracket, and so you put this in, and the radio goes in here, so it doesn't have any open space. Got that. It also came with the wiring harness. I think this is the antenna adapter to go with this. These are the base blockers for the tweeters, because I have to. Unfortunately, the system that I have, you have to bypass the OEM, the amplifier. So it came with instructions on how to do all the wires, like the 9-wire, to get all of that done. It shouldn't take long. They said but it's about 30-45 minute install. But I have to bypass the amp on the BMW. Not gonna take it out. I have to bypass it.
Right.
So,
Yep.
And they also said, and most of the time, you know this, like if you're gonna put an aftermarket radio in, a lot of times it is probably better, especially if it's an older car with a newer stereo. It's better to bypass the amp because most of the modern radios have amps built in, so you're actually going to get a clear, crisper sound if you do bypass the amp. That's a stock, or you can get an aftermarket amp or whatever. But the good thing about Crutchfield is they send a hard copy of a PDF, something like 20 pages long, exactly step by step how to install this thing with all the different parts. It comes with a digital copy through an email, and you get a 5-year warranty automatically on this stuff. But you have a 24-hour hotline that you can call, and there's someone manning that, because I called them a couple nights ago when I first got it. It was like 11 o'clock. The dude answered it. His name was Gage, I think. We sit there and talk about 10 minutes about different things and all that. And like 24-hour like hotline, you can call and ask, and they can walk you through different stuff. I mean, it's pretty cool. I said I got this through Crutchfield. The cool thing about Crutchfield is you can go onto their website. And I'm not sponsored. I'm just throwing it out there. But Crutchfield, that's how you spell Crutchfield. You go on their website and look for like radios or whatever. It'll ask you what kind of car you have, and then it'll tell you all the radios that they have that will fit your car. When if you order one, like I said, they'll send a digital PDF of step-by-step instructions on how to install it and all of that. It'll tell you what parts you need. Like it's on mine, it says, if I had either the 6 speaker or the 10 speaker, and I say I have the 10 speaker, and it says if you have a 10 speaker, you have to bypass the amp. So you're going to need these parts right here, blah, 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 blah. And so it gives you instructions on how to do all of it. And then when it comes in, it's also got a hard copy of all that. So it's really, really cool. I'm looking forward to putting this together. It'd be nice to have. My radio right now does not have Bluetooth, so excuse me. So it'd be nice to have the Bluetooth available to listen to, my music and all that through Bluetooth and connecting to my phone. Then having the Bluetooth being able to talk and all of that stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting this going. Really, really am. Just want to kind of say hello to everybody that might be joining out there. Appreciate you joining. If you're out there, go ahead and say something. We don't know that you're out there unless you do. But this is good. This is our first kind of live chat, and don't know if we're going to do this on a regular basis. Might turn this into the Speed Limit 155 podcast. You never know. We're still trying to grow the channel. We just started it not too long ago, and so yeah, I appreciate everybody that's out there that does watch and comment and all that stuff. I do appreciate that. So that's kind of where I am with the Hummer. I think what I'm going to do, if I like this stereo, I might even go in with like a 10-inch double din stereo for the Hummer. That's a dual din, 2-din, whatever you want to call it, radio. But it'll be able to do like GPS navigation, so it's not have to just use my phone and all of that. But that'd be kind of cool with all of that. You never know. You never know what we're going to do. But so far, all the reviews on this thing was pretty good. It's not the most expensive thing. It's not the greatest thing. It's not a Kenwood or anything. It's nothing great, but it is something that I've seen that had got good reviews. I got it for a good price, and yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited about that. I know Clover had to jump away for a second. I don't know if he's back yet or not, but if he is, we'll bring him back in whenever he does get back. He probably had to go outside for a second and all of that. But yeah, I go outside and kill my lungs while we're doing this. But yeah, they ordered also a My Carly. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the My Carly. Became really popular in the last year or two over in Europe. I think the company is actually out of Germany, but it allows you to mod your car, not necessarily like crazy stuff. It's going to like void warranties and all that. What it does is it does a few things actually. It does when you hook it up to underneath your steering wheel, like where the mechanics check everything, you hook it up to that. It's a real small piece, plugs in, and it'll give you a diagnostic about what lights are on, as far as warning lights or anything that could be wrong with the vehicle. It'll do that. Then it'll also, which I think is really cool, it has like a used car thing where you plug this into any car, and if you're looking to buy a used car, something will plug it in. It'll do a diagnostics on that. It'll tell you if they think there's fraud, or someone's moved the odometer back or something. All that stuff. It'll kind of give you a checklist of what it finds wrong with the vehicle, so it kind of gives you an idea if you're going to buy that car or not. And then the third thing is being able to mod it. And sometimes it's just like, like one of the mods that I want to look forward to is with the BMW is I'll be able to do a combination on my key fob, and as I walk into the car, it'll drop the windows and lower the convertible top, or when I get out and walk away, I can push a combination, it'll raise the roof back up and close the windows, and different lights and different ways to open the doors, different sounds, all sorts of stuff. I'm looking really forward to messing with it. So go check out some videos on My Carly if you're interested. It's a pretty cool thing. I got it for about $90, about $100 total with shipping and everything. It's being shipped from Germany, I found out. So that'll be kind of cool to get it in. It's supposed to be here, I think tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So I'll be able to mess. I'll do a video on that on the channel and talk about all that. But looking forward to getting that in and all that. Gonna be getting some headlights for the BMW. And I'm thinking about. You guys tell me out there. I'm thinking about changing over to LED. So I'm thinking I'm going to go LED with the headlights, and then I'm thinking about wrapping the car. It's a beautiful car. If you guys have seen video on the channel, it's a beautiful beautiful red right now, and the paint's in great shape. But the problem with having a car that sits so low is it is susceptible to a lot of rock chips, and so I've been getting some rock chips, small ones on the hood. And so instead of having to worry about all that, I figured, well, I can protect this paint by doing a wrap, and I've got a color, a silver and black theme that I'm going to go with. I think, or silver and navy blue, maybe. But I want to do that with a friend of mine here in the next couple months, hopefully. If I can get everything done in time and all that. So if you guys have wrapped a car, let me know, because I'll be interested in hearing what you guys say about that. Clover, you back yet? You must be going to get something to eat real quick. So, but yeah. Once again, I'll say hi to everybody. If you guys are out there joining, go ahead and say something out in the chat. We don't know that you're out there unless you are. If you're watching this in replay, go ahead and leave a comment and let us know what you think about our channel, maybe turning this live stream into a podcast. I've got 3 podcasts over on our main channel, which is Ghost Tactical. If you guys are into guns and all of that stuff, the tactical life and all of that, go check out our main channel. It's called Ghost Tactical. We have a lot of fun over there. Got a Armed Citizen podcast, which is a live podcast every week, every Tuesday night at 7 Central. We talk all about guns and all that. And then I have the Jarhead podcast, which is a military-based podcast that'll come out about once a month or so. Have fun with those. And then Clover and I are actually starting our own podcast here in the next few weeks called the Ghost and Clover podcast. And we've been doing podcasts together for about 5 or 6 years now, coming up on 6 years actually. But we never had our own official podcast. And this is going to be a podcast. It isn't going to be just about guns. It's going to be talking food, cars, movies, trading cards, basically whatever we want to talk about. It's going to be just random for fun, relaxation, have a good time type of podcast. So looking forward to that starting up here in a few weeks probably. But we're going to be going to Indianapolis in April for a few days for the NRA annual meeting, which also has a big show, a public gun show. A lot of manufacturers have their guns and all that, and we're media. We go several places every year, SHOT Show, and a bunch of different places for the gun side. We're going to be doing that, but we're going to be driving to Indianapolis, and that for me is about an 8-hour drive. For him, it's probably, I don't know, 12, 14 hours. When he gets back, we'll have him jump in and tell how long that drive is. But we've got an idea I came up with a couple nights ago, and kind of following the Cannonball Run type thing, but it's going to be not necessarily a race per se, but we're going to try to get like maybe 8 or 10 people to do. I named it the Bullet Run, and we're going to go up there, and you got to be there by Thursday, let's say like 6 o'clock or something. And the finish line is going to be in the parking lot of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which I think is really kind of cool. And we'll have, instead of just a race, what we're going to do is we're going to have points for like every time. If you stop at a gun shop, take a picture from the gun shop, or you stop at a truck stop, take a picture of the truck stop with maybe some memorabilia from that, whether it's Buc-ee's or Love's or whatever it is, and have fun with those. And you rack up points, and the winner gets a prize. It's kind of have fun with the road trip type thing, and maybe entice more people to drive and get out there and get on the highways and have fun with that. So we're going to do that. It's going to I call it the Bullet Run, kind of the gun thing, but kind of go along with the Cannonball Run or the Musket Ball Run or all of that stuff. So looking forward to that as well. Now, if you guys have ever done anything like that, it's kind of a scavenger hunt type run, I guess, if you want to call it that. It's kind of the best way to maybe explain it. But yeah, looking forward to doing something with that and having fun for sure. All right, got finished smoking. Let's go back inside here. Get back in here, and but yeah, that's kind of what we got planned. I've got a friend of mine here in the town that I live. He's a car guy, big time car guy, and he's got a bunch of cars that he's rebuilt himself, and like one of them is like a Shelby kit car type thing, but it's beautiful and it's awesome. Got a great engine in it and all that stuff. But he's got a bunch of different cars that we're gonna go and do some videos with. He's actually the one that helps me do the wrap on my car on the BMW and have fun with that. But he's got a bunch of cars. We'll be doing a bunch of videos showing those cars off and all of that. So looking forward to that as well. Excuse me. And yeah, just kind of excited about this channel. Really excited about being able to talk cars. I'm not the most knowledgeable car person in the world by any means. I obviously am not a mechanic by any means, but I do love cars and I love talking cars and I like the band cars as well. You guys are 70s and 80s kids. I'm 40, almost 48, so I'm a kid of the 80s and all that. But band cars, I love the cars. They're great. Um, let's see here if Clover is back yet. I don't know if he is or not. He had to go and I don't know what he's doing, honestly. Yeah, he's taking care of Clover. So yeah, we're like I said, once again a recap, just got the new radio in for the BMW. It's a Boss 7-inch floating screen, touch screen, whatever you want to call it. Goes with Bluetooth, and it comes with a backup cam. So I don't have a backup cam on the Z4, so I'll be able to attach that and get all that done. And it came with all the wires and everything. I got it through Crutchfield, and they're great. Like the customer service is amazing with Crutchfield, so I cannot complain whatsoever. But if you're interested, I've got the exact same radio, except it does not come with the backup camera. But that link is in the description, so go check it out. And the one that comes the exact same setup, except for the backup cam. It's on sale for like $189 right now on Amazon, which is a lot cheaper than I got mine. But yeah, go check that out down below, and in the description there's a link there for this Boss. And if you guys have ever used Boss Elite, like I said, I know that it's not the most fancy or it's not the best one. But I was looking to get something aftermarket for the Z4, and not a Z4, C4. We're in America. Call them Zs. I don't know. Some people call them Zs still. I don't care either way. But and I started doing a bunch of research and all that, and for a couple $100, $250 or something like that, with shipped and all that. It's kind of what I wanted to spend. This was one of the ones that got really, really high reviews, and so yeah, I went ahead and picked it up. It came in a couple days ago, so we can get it hopefully installed here in the next week or so, and have fun with it, and be able to have the Bluetooth again, and touch screen, and be able to do GPS and all that stuff on the 7-inch screen. It comes in a 9-inch and a 10-inch as well, and I went with the 7-inch because I think that's gonna be the perfect size for the little car. If it was a bigger car, I would do something different, but also, like I said, if I like this, I might go ahead and get this in a double den for the Hummer. I might get like the 10-inch or something that will plug into that two double den. BMW is a single den hole, so yeah, I'm gonna do that as well. But yeah, so
I'm back.
hey, there you are. I was just kind of talking about the Bullet Run and all that stuff, and kind of recapping the radio and all that. I know you're a Ford fan. I'm not saying you dislike other brands, because I know that you guys got a car a couple of years ago that you're really loving. But
oh yeah,
I know that you're a Ford guy growing up, and historically, what are some of the Ford vehicles that you kind of grown up with, or any vehicles for that matter?
Well, I want to back up a second before I left, because there's a couple of things I was gonna mention. Two things.
Yeah.
The first is you were talking about ads on YouTube.
Yeah.
See, my wife's birthday is next week,
Oh.
and this morning, thanks to a YouTube ad, come across,
Yeah.
and I'm like, snap, that would be a good birthday present, right?
Yeah.
Like, God, a YouTube ad got me.
It got
But
me so hard last week, several of them, but that's what
and
they're there for.
yeah, and then when you're talking about radios, you talk about the new car, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I'm screwed, dude. Like, if something happens, like, what do? You take it back to the dealership and you have it replaced, I guess,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's that weird sweeping out console looking. I mean, there's no way to replace that with a standard
Yeah.
radio with all the touch screen and the nav, and like I don't know how you would do it. So that is one perk, I
I'm
guess.
sure somewhere out there's a YouTube video. I'm sure that someone just aftermarketed that same vehicle.
I mean, maybe, but then you don't have all the amenities that are tied into that and everything as well, right?
Well,
Because like there's so
you
many
could
things.
because some of these. I mean, I don't know. Like I still when I went to Crutchfield. Crutchfield is where I got this radio. It's a great website. I'm not sponsored. This is not sponsored. I bought this from Crutchfield, but
Oh,
I've
I
been
was
so
buying stuff from
impressed.
yeah, I was buying stuff from Crutchfield back in the '80s, man.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love they're great. But I just went over to Crutchfield and looked for car radios, and it said what year, what make, what model.
Uh,
It'll ask you like, do you have a navigation system? What kind of speaker system? Like, you don't have all these options. You just choose it, and then it'll tell you what they have that will replace
yeah.
the factory radio, and I mean, there's no telling what they could have. So you never know. I'm sure someone. So you want to tell real quick because it is a pretty cool car.
Yes,
It's faster.
2019.
It's
Yeah.
faster than you probably thought when you first bought it. You want to talk to people what you just got a couple years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them things that sort of a sleeper in a
It
way,
is.
right?
Yeah.
It's 2019 Kia Forte EX,
Yeah.
and this is the but.
Sport mode.
Um, First of all, um, it is that burnt orange color, which is
Yeah, it
very
is pretty cool.
rare for that. I get so many people, especially in traveling, they're like, "Oh wow, like what year is that?" And they're like, "I didn't know," And I had a guy the other day that he literally had been looking for one, and every time it goes in a
Yeah.
dealership to be serviced, the car guy, the car salesman come out every single time. And they're
Yeah.
like, "You ready to trade that in?" And I'd asked them after like the third time of them, taking it in and them coming and asking me that. I'm like, "What's the deal? Are I was dead set on selling me a new car or what?" And they're like, "Man, you would not believe the waiting list we got of people wanting, low
Burnt orange,
mileage,
especially in Texas. Burnt orange is
well
kind of a big
maintained,
color.
yeah, well maintained, low mileage in that color because it's so rare for that year."
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially with that trim style, the EX is the fancier, the Fortes obviously, but that's the other caveat with this. When we bought it, it had 800 miles. It was secondhand, but it only had 800 miles on it.
Yeah.
And didn't even think about it. It was such a good deal, right?
Yeah.
That we just bought it. And then we'd had it a month or two, or I don't even know how long, and opened the glove compartment, and there was the dealer tag, right?
Oh yeah.
And it literally has every option Kia offers for
Yeah.
the Forte EX, right? Every single one, plus like $6,800 in dealer options.
Yeah.
This includes like computer tweaks and chips and like,
Right.
yeah, it's different. It's not just a Forte. It is basically a GT without being almost a GT without being a GT. And I don't even know if they made a
Sure.
GT in 2019. I'm not up to speed on Kias, unfortunately, so I don't know.
I don't know. I just know that they're very good cars. They're very well respected as far as quality of fit and finish and all of that. I remember when Kia first came out, they were the first ones that I remember had like a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, which I think is
Oh yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. And fun, sporty as all get out, but yeah, four
Yeah, when it
door,
goes to sport mode, that thing will run.
yeah, and you four door, and then 40 miles to the gallon plus
Yeah,
when you get out on the interstate. Like, how can you beat that, man? How can you beat the power and everything else and running
yeah,
95, 100 mile an hour down the interstate and get 40 something plus miles of the gallon? It's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, we had a good time. So last spring we met in Talladega for a gun show, an industry event. And both, like I said, both of us have guns. If you're into guns, go check out our main channel is Ghost Tactical. His main channel is Clover Tac. We do a lot of two-way and gun stuff, podcasts, and all that stuff over there. But we were going to Talladega for an industry event for a couple days, and then going on to South Carolina for another one for a few days. And so we get over there and spend basically out for about a week altogether.
Oh,
I left.
the picture at Talladega Speedway was epic.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we took a bunch of pictures in front of Talladega with my car and his car, and just his car, just my car. But our hotel was literally like a mile and a half from Talladega. So it was really easy to go over there and all that. Now, Talladega was closed at the time they were doing some repairs to the track, so you couldn't get in. But they had a big sign there, Talladega Motor Speedway. So we took pictures in front of that, and it was awesome. But on the way home, we left at different times, but we ended up meeting just outside, I guess, just west of Atlanta. No, just north of Atlanta. We actually met up
just west of the Georgia line.
Yeah,
A little ways.
and we had some fun, to say the least. We were going pretty
us
good.
and some other cars.
Yeah, so it was I had the BMW, he had the Kia, and we were rolling probably 85 just together, and all of a sudden, like, this Mercedes and another BMW, and, like, was it an Audi or something?
Yeah, I think there was an Audi mix.
I think there was an Audi in there. So there was only like 5 or 6 of us, and we just kind of got in a line. And none of us, it's besides me and Clover, obviously, but we weren't like talking because we were both in separate cars. But the 5 of us like cruised, and we got to Talladega back from Atlanta quicker than most people would ever dream of doing. We were probably averaging like 95.
Oh
maybe.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
At least maybe even closer to 100.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about it was it was like precision driving. Like, we all took our time with leading the pack, and then we'd fall in, and then we block for everyone to go through, and then it was just one of those things where the entire way, without even talking to each other and even knowing each other, it was just beautiful. It was so much fun. That was one of the most fun little stretches I've ever had in my life.
Yep.
But that was fun. So yeah, so the Kia surprised you. I remember when you called and said, we found this car and all of that, and but yeah, I've ridden it many times, and it is a fun little car, man, and it's got more power than you think, for sure.
Yeah. Now, my wife, getting back to your original question there, before that, my wife had been in Mustangs since like 2000 or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd been Ford when I had the ability, pretty much. I mean, we've had some other stuff, like my kids, have had other vehicles. At one time,
Right.
us, as well as all 3 children, all had Fords at one time.
Yeah.
I had a
Now
Ford
you have a
truck.
history working for Ford for something like that, didn't you? For a little while.
Both of my grandfathers. I didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I take that back. I sort of did. I worked in a lot of different places. Sears Automotive Center, for a couple of big, huge, like, tire chains.
Yeah.
Or regional, I should say, tire chains, not like national or anything.
You're right.
And then I worked for, I don't know, a few months, maybe a year, for a GM dealership that also the same people owned a Ford dealership across town, which is a weird thing. But
that is kind of weird, but okay.
You see that a lot now.
They're trying to corner the market, are they?
Yeah. Back then it was weird. Now it's not so much. Now you go into town, and like the Kia dealership, for example, we take the car to. That same company owns a Nissan and a Toyota and a BMW and a Chevrolet, and I don't even remember how many others, right? Like, in the same town. That's a pretty big town, but in the same
Yeah.
town. They own several different brands of dealerships, but
They definitely
um,
corner the market on vehicles in that town then for sure.
yeah, but it was the Dodge and the Ford place are different, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I worked, I don't know, from maybe about a year there or something like that, I guess. Um, but no, I mean, you talk about family history. Both of my grandfathers retired from Ford,
Oh
so
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I had
So
one
Ford's
that
a
retired.
family thing.
Not really. Because it was really interesting. Both of my grandfathers, so that would be my mom's dad and my dad's dad, right?
Yeah.
Um, well, let me take that back. Yeah. And actually my great grandfather even. My great grandfather worked for Ford tractor dealership
Oh
for
wow.
years and years.
I didn't know
Um,
that Ford had a tractor dealership.
yeah, right. So anyway, we're talking my great great grandfather. So you do
Right.
the math on that. He probably retired in the 80s or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, um, so yeah, I've even got Ford branded tools that were here because I live in their old house that are specifically. I found them in barns and stuff. They're pretty cool. They're weird shaped wrenches and stuff, and they're
Yeah.
actually marked Ford.
Oh
And
wow.
on the tool, it's cast in it, and it's they're specific tools for getting to certain bolts and whatever on tractors.
Interesting.
Which is cool. I'd never get rid of them, but I've actually used them a time or two working on stuff, believe it or not, because they're weird and you can get to things. But anyway, um, so yeah, I've got that little bit of history. But growing up, um, it's one of them things you drove what you could afford, and especially
Yeah.
getting married and
Sure.
having babies young and stuff like that. So,
Oh yeah.
it took a while. I got my first Ford. I'm trying to think. My
What
first
was what was your first car, by the way, real quick?
79 Toyota Celica.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. Not really, but yeah. I mean,
Well, I mean,
you hear that
when you're
model and
when
you're
when
like,
you're
yeah,
when you're
that's a nice.
16, it doesn't matter as long as you have wheels. It doesn't matter.
This is true, but it had no passenger seat and the dash was ripped out. I mean, it was literally it came from a junkyard.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, sounds nice, but it wasn't. I mean, if it was a nice, yeah. But anyway, that's a nice model. I will agree. That'd be cool to have a cherry
I don't even know if
79
they. I don't
Celica.
even know if they make silicas anymore. Do they?
I don't think they do, but it would be
Yeah.
cool to have a cherry 79 Celica. Don't get me
Oh
wrong.
yeah. Absolutely.
But anyway, yeah, and we can back up and talk about that. I had a bunch of different cars before I ever even technically had a driver's license,
Well,
but
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I had an uncle that owned a used car dealership and a wrecking yard. So
Okay.
um, for years prior to turning 16, it was the first car. Which one was going to be mine?
Right.
And of course I had summer jobs and mowed and did other things, and it was coming from the wrecking yard. It was my uncle or whatever, and so literally you could buy a car for $2 or $300, and I would buy
Absolutely.
cars and tinker with them and work on them. But um, so I had for a short period of time at an 81, I want to say Ford Courier, which let's be honest was a
I don't even
Mazda.
know what that is, honestly.
Let's be honest, it was a little Mazda pickup,
Oh,
basically,
okay.
but it was
Okay.
a Ford Courier is what it was.
Smaller
This
than like an
thing,
S10 or
oh god, yes, it
a
was smaller
Ranger
than
or
this.
something.
Yeah, because my next pickup was an S10 after that Ford
Okay.
Courier, and the S10 was definitely bigger bed, bigger everything. Um, but the Ford Courier, that thing had 300,000 miles on it, probably when
Yeah.
I got it. Um, it was running bad one day, and like literally the carburetor was flopping around on the intake, like it had rattled to the point the bolts had come loose and the nuts come off, and so like I had to get that. I mean, it was a wonder. You literally did not even have to have a key. It was so driven and
Oh
worn
wow.
that you could
Wow.
start it with anything you could fit in the slot. You know what I mean? Like you can put your pocket knife in there, a screwdriver,
That's
whatever, and
hilarious.
turn it over, right? It was so worn.
Yeah.
Um, it was, but I mean, it did the job. I mean, it got down the road
Sure.
60 miles an hour and it got you back and forth to work and whatever.
That's all you
So
needed.
that was technically my first Ford until '98. I got a new Ford pickup in '98. And it's pretty much been it was all Ford up until this Kia. It's been all Ford
Yeah.
since '98. But that was just getting to a point in your life where you can afford to do this or do that, right? And you're not
Yeah.
like bound by the price of a vehicle.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Now you still have a Ford pickup that you drive every now and then.
yeah, I've still got my '06, which was my uncle who coincidentally owned a Ford dealership.
Yeah.
He passed away, and the family gave other family members first shot. They got some prices from car lots, right?
Yeah.
See if they were going to sell them, and they said, "Hey, if anybody in the family wants these, this is what the best.
Yeah. If
This
you
is the
can
best.
match it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the best offer we got from the used car lots. But coming out and buying it. And if anybody in the
Yeah.
family wants them, the vehicles that they had, my aunt and my uncle, they were like, we'll sell them to family for that. And it was a no brainer. This was an '06 F-150 XLT.
Okay.
Um, with 7,000 miles, maybe. I mean, it still had new
Oh
car
wow.
smell.
Okay. Nice.
It was a go to church, poke around to the grocery store truck, right?
Yeah.
Old dude, my uncle, obviously. I mean, he passed away from heart attack or whatever, some old age related thing. Um, and yeah, 10.5 for 10.5, and this was in early '07, and it was an
Oh
'06 model,
wow.
right?
Wow.
So like
Nice.
that was a no brainer. Like when I went in for and it was weird because coincidentally he um he sat on the board of the local credit union. So when I went into the credit union, he um
Your uncle did?
I went in. Yeah, I went in and talked to the local credit union because that's who I always finance through them. They give the best interest rates by far.
Credit unions have a way of doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's by far. And so anyway, I went in there and I'm like, I'm looking at a new truck, and she goes, a new truck, and I'm like, well, it's a used truck. I said, but
New to
really
me.
not, really nice. And she said, okay. She said, what is it? And I told her, it's an '06 F-150 XLT. It's like, it's just 2-wheel drive. It's quad cab, 4-door. It's got this option. It's got that. It's got this. Yeah. Mileage. I told her, and she's like, wow, okay, it is pretty much new. She's like, all right. She was, well, what do they want for it? And I said, 10.5. And she said, excuse me?
Right.
And I said, 10.5. And she's like, 10,500. And I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
She's like, I'm looking at a loan value on that of $27,000. And I said, well,
Right.
should be a no brainer on getting a loan
Should be
then,
a
shouldn't it?
no-brainer.
And she's like, where are you getting this? And I said, told her my uncle's name. And she goes, oh, Mr. Ross. And I said, yeah. And she goes, yeah, and I know that truck well, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, I know he sat on the board here. Yes, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it was an absolute no brainer on that one,
Yeah.
right? It was kind of like this Kia. It's like you'd been an idiot to turn that down because
Right.
you could have resold it if nothing else. And matter of
Yeah.
fact, at that time, I had the shop, the business, I paid it off, and I come into some stuff to where I needed I don't remember if it was inventory or a big job we had or something, but I needed some cash flow, right?
Yeah.
And went to the credit union, and I needed more than just a little personal loan. You could get like $3,000 on a personal loan, but I needed
Right.
like $8,000 or something.
Yeah.
And granted, the truck was already paid off.
Right.
This was
Right.
three years later or something, right? And I could have borrowed like $15,000 or $18,000 against it,
Right.
you know. Um, and I did borrow borrowed just what I need. Of course, I paid it back within like 6 months. That way I had a clear title again and all that. I
Sure.
don't like owing on
Absolutely.
stuff,
I
um,
understand that.
but yeah, that's kind of the story on the on the Fords. Now that the going back, turning back the clock. Um, I had what was some pretty cool cars back in the day. I mean, the before I got my driver's license, it was a '79 Celica, and then I had an '86 Cutlass Supreme.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, you
And
could
it
have gotten in
was,
trouble with that.
dude, it was nice, bro. It was nice, and it wasn't tricked out. It was all stock and stuff,
But even
uh,
stock is still pretty good.
but it was. I wished I still had that one. Yeah, right. And then so I ended up letting that one go. And shortly before I got my license, picked up an '81 Honda Accord hatchback.
Oh,
Um,
really? That
yeah,
could be worth
and
some money today, boy. I'm telling you.
well, here's the story of that one. So so drove by it, kept driving by it several times and set up by the road. We pulled over, we talked to the guy, and he's like, "Yeah," he's like, it needs a timing chain." Like, okay. Well, my dad is super mechanically inclined. Again, come from a family that worked for dealerships and mechanics and
Right.
whatever anyway. And I'm that way. I mean, I'm a mechanic for quite a few years, so I know my way around tools and other things. And so, like, okay, it's not a big deal, especially for the money they wanted it for.
Sure.
And I like the idea of, um, because it was 5 speed, right? Like the
Mhm.
Celica was, right? The Obviously the Cutlass was not. It was automatic. And so I was like, man, I really like I don't know, when you're a kid, there's just something about the active art of shifting and stuff, right? It's just a different driving experience. And so I'm like, it's got that, and then it had the hatchback. Well, we're talking about the days of the stereos, man. The 15s and the 18 Rockford
Oh
Five
yeah.
gate
Oh
subs,
yeah.
and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
I've got a whole hatchback I can fill with speakers, right? Just thinking about all
Yes,
those
you
kinds of,
do.
like, man, I can rattle some windows. So anyway, we bought it, we got it home, we put a timing chain in it, and it's like it was fine for the longest times, and this was an omen. I knew something was up with this car from like almost the start, because got the timing chain in, and me and a buddy of mine was just driving it around. At this time, I did have my license, and a I had a blanket in the back. All the speaker boxes and everything was sitting on this blanket, and something was not with the amplifiers was not wired up really super good, and it caught the blanket on fire.
Oh
And
wow.
so pulled over, man, was slapping it with stuff, got it out.
Oh yeah.
That should have been an omen right there, because here, about, I don't know how long it was, about 6 months after that. I didn't have that car that long, unfortunately, but about 6 months after that, um, we was driving to school, and I passed somebody. It was went into 2 lanes, and I passed them. Well, we got to school, and uh, pulled in the parking lot. Always got there early, hung out in the parking lot, and I pulled in the parking lot, and I knew something was wrong, because like it was smoking. It wasn't smoking terribly bad, but like from under the hood, it was smoking.
Oh.
And so, I popped the hood, and I'm like, "Oh man, I got an oil leak. Something's going on." And so I checked the oil. It was a little low. I put oil in it. I'm like, "Okay, maybe I'll check the oil before I leave for school. I'll try to limp it home." Blah blah blah. And anyway, the uh, buddy of mine pulls in, and it was his mom. He didn't have his license yet. He's like, "Man, when you passed us, you blew oil all over our windshield." So, yeah, and it was funny, man. Like the whole school, it was so embarrassing, because the whole school, all the classrooms had, of course, windows that faced the parking lot, and like everybody was ripping me like all day long about they're seeing my car smoking. Like second and third period, they look out the
Sure.
window, and my car's out there still smoking. And
That's funny.
so anyway, by the time school was over, it quit smoking. Get it, check the oil, and get in it, crank it up, and go
Just in
straight
time for
home.
you to drive home, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Drive pretty much straight home. Stop by the little gas station just down the road from my house, a mile or two maybe. Pull in there, and I kill it and everything, and get out in it, and I don't, it doesn't seem like it's smoking. And we go in, and we get a drink and a candy bar and all this, and I walk back out, and there's really not even anything smoking. But I noticed paint on the hood is bubbling.
Oh, snap.
And I'm like, "What in the world?" So I reach under the deal, I pop the hood, and man, when I raised it the least little bit, I guess it got air, and
Yeah.
flames shot out from under the hood,
Oh,
brother.
snap.
And so, um, my little brother, a couple years younger than me, he runs into the store, and he's like, "Oh, his car's on fire." So the store owner runs out with a fire extinguisher, and he's like, "Okay, when I say go, you jerk the hood up. I'm gonna, I'll spray under it."
Yeah.
And anyway, so we did that. And of course, it had burnt all kinds of stuff under the hood. It obviously
It
wasn't
was pretty
cranked or
much
nothing like that.
done. Yeah.
So anyway, ended up having to take it. It had to have a lot of rewiring and stuff that was beyond my expertise at the time. So I took it and paid, a shade tree mechanic guy that was a little better than me. I don't know, a couple $100 to rewire everything. And then my uncle, which again on the used car lot in the junkyard, he run it through the used car auction, right?
Sure.
And I got back most of what I paid for it. I won't lie. I got back most. So, it hurt my feelings a lot and all of that. I didn't get my time back out of it, obviously, but it got most of my money. And then I moved into an 83 Oldsmobile 98 Broham that
Oh,
was
okay.
pimp to the max. If you're gonna cruise town, and there at the time, man, there was kids that had the little sports cars, and we're getting there. I finally made that jump, but those kids that had the little sports cars and the other things, right? Uh, and dude, I was like the most popular with that '98 big boat Broham because you could fit 25 kids in that thing, dude. Right? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you pull up in the Winn-Dixie parking lot or whatever. I mean, it's like, hey, man, we're going to go down and get some ice cream. And at that time, everybody that didn't have a license, they would, the 14, 15-year-olds, or even 16, 17, 18 that for whatever reason didn't have a license, they would ride with somebody or they'd get their parents to drop them off in the parking lot, or they'd
Yeah.
walk from the movie parking lot over there or whatever, right?
Sure.
And
Oh
so
yeah.
there'd be a lot of people there that didn't have a car. And so man, we could load up the whole parking lot in that ride and go get ice cream or, go to a party somewhere or whatever we were doing.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool. Had a big whip antenna on the back, man, and tinted the windows on it. And the wing windows, I had the wing windows in the back.
Yeah.
And I had a Roadrunner sticker on one side and a
Well,
Coyote
you
on the
have to. You
other.
got
And
to,
oh
man. You
man, it
got
was
to.
that sucker was pimp, man. And would run, man. It had the 307 in it, and we did we did a little bit of tweaking and everything to it, so it was a pretty good sleeper too. Had it been a lighter weight car, it'd have run like a scalded dog,
Yeah.
But it was such a boat. But the only car I ever really, and I've drove 36 hours, 38 hours straight. That's the only car ever um, that I've come close to falling asleep driving. And
Oh,
that's
really?
because no matter how fast you're going, that thing, because it's so big, dude, it just rode so smooth. It was like you were on just a cloud. It was so comfortable. You felt nothing on the road, like nothing. No bumps, no nothing. Um, it was a pretty awesome car. And so, um, for my I don't remember what was going. Oh, it was homecoming. So we were going to the homecoming the day I had seen a little car um in town. I had a job. I've been worked since I was like 15, 14, 15. 15 on the books, I guess, 14 off. But anyway,
Right. Yeah.
seen a little car, an '89 Dodge Daytona. Now this one
Ooh, okay.
was,
Okay.
5 speed. It was the Daytona Shelby, '89 Daytona Shelby, um, and loaded out the paint on the hood and the roof. Those cars in that late '80s, early '90s range. Something about the hood and the
Hmm.
roof paint, right? The paint
Yeah.
wasn't that good back in the day. And it
Well,
was start.
that was like when they started doing the fiberglass and all that, and they never could. That's the beginning of the fiberglass era,
Yeah,
and the paint just didn't work
yeah.
well with it.
It just wasn't. It was starting to fade, and this was only in like '92 or something. So it's not like it
Yeah.
was that old of a car. Um, but it still looked good, and for the most part. And so anyway, I had said something about it several times, like, "Oh man, that's a really cool car," this, that, and the other. And so, um, I come home from work because I'd worked like an early shift in order to get home for homecoming.
Yeah.
And oh, I could get out to homecoming and all. And I drive up, and there sits the car in the yard. And my grandmother and grandfather had went and basically went and financed it.
Yeah.
And said, "Here's the keys." And oh, by the way, here's the payment book on it because you had a payment
Yeah.
book back in the day.
Sure.
Like,
Absolutely.
here's the keys and here's the payment book. I'm like, "Thanks for the bill, appreciate it."
Yeah.
Like, but
Yep.
I didn't give a crap at that point. I was like, "Oh, this is sweet." Um, so I had that for a while and ended up a guy pulling a trailer run out in front of me, and I had to put it in.
Oh.
I had to put it in the ditch, and I hadn't had it that long. I hadn't had it but a few months, and ended up putting it in the ditch. And thankfully, um, it didn't do an extreme amount of damage to it. And
Enough their
so,
insurance could cover it without totaling it out.
but the thing is, yeah, enough the insurance would cover it without totaling out, and the
Yeah.
body shop just painted the whole thing.
Oh, so you got a new job on it. That's nice.
So I had to deal with the roof and the hood for like literally a few months, and then didn't
Yeah,
have a
that's
brand
not
new
bad
paint
at all
job.
then.
So that checked all the boxes, man. It was sporty, it was quick. Um, I would road race, I guess Tokyo drifting type stuff before that was a thing.
The Dodge
With that
Daytona.
back in the day.
Hell yeah.
And it was sporty. It was quick. It had the hatch, right? The hatchback.
Sure.
So all my speakers and my other stuff in there. I mean, it was like the total package.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would run.
Now, what kind of
Um,
engine? What kind of engine did it have in that? Do you remember?
I don't remember. It was a V6 of some sort.
V6. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. The Daytona was a V6. The normal was the 4 cylinder. But it
What's up, Chris? What's
and
going
it
on,
was,
man?
yeah, some kind of V6 turbo thing or another. Like V6. What is the 24 valve V6 or something like that.
Oh,
Anyway,
was it? So it wasn't turbo or anything. It was just a straight V6.
it had turbo. It was like a V6, like a 24 valve or something, V6 turbo. I don't remember
Yeah.
at this point, right? It wasn't like double the valves. Like it had extra exhaust valves or something. I can't
Gotcha.
remember
Yeah.
exactly how that was back in the day. I had a little Nissan 4-wheel drive pickup one time. It was the same way. It was a 4 cylinder, but it was the same way. It had extra valves for some reason.
Right.
Anyway, um, but we would do. I had a buddy that had a 72 GMC, and oh my God, this thing would light up the tires like quarter mile. You did not want to go up against my buddy in this GMC pickup. And then we had a couple other buddies that had some different cars too. So we devised. You talk about your bullet run or whatever. What
Yeah.
we would do is we would set up a course, and so it was a pretty straight stretch of highway, right, for like 5 miles.
Yeah.
And then you turn, and maybe that was mildly crooked, or no, that was kind of uphill for the most part,
Yeah.
right? And then you turn on another stretch, and it was crooked as it could possibly be
So
on
kind of
that
put your
stretch,
car
right?
through all of it. Yeah.
And then you had another stretch. So what we would do is we would run relays. We would get
Oh
four-man
wow.
team
Cool.
relays. And I always had the crooked road, always
Yeah.
with that car, right? But man, with the 5 speed and that little car and the suspension and everything else, man, oh man, it would get it. And I remember my buddy in the 70, he always had the first leg because
Well, of course, if he's
for
gonna
a
run it
for
straight.
a
Yeah.
for a little while, he could smoke anything out there for a little
Yeah.
while, but he
Yeah.
would top out pretty quick. Is the only thing. But in a few miles, I mean, he would have multiple car links, ahead of
Yeah.
most other stuff. Um, so it kind of give a little bit of a head start. But yeah, we always run little races like that, which was kind of interesting. I actually got pulled over one night. We were doing that, and I wasn't running the crooked stretch that night. I was running the final leg. Um, and I come up over a hill, and there's a highway patrol dude, and I'm doing like 108.
Yeah. You're like, oops.
And it's like, oh man, the lights come on, and I immediately get on the CB, and I'm like, highway patrol hammered me, like back off, because we all had CBs back in the day.
Right. Sure.
And I'm like, back off, because we were ahead of the other team. We usually were. So we were a mile ahead, or who knows? They had plenty of time to slow down. And I'm like, yep. I was like, highway patrol just got me. Back off of it. All right,
Right.
all right. And so anyway, I pulled over, and he come up, and he was like, white as a sheet, dude. And he was like,
The cop was.
oh, you realize how much fast you're going? And I said, real quick, I'm like, yes, sir. I said, I'm headed to the hospital. My uncle was there, and I heard that he was intensive care. He's been in an accident. That's really all I know. And he's like, and this was cops and stuff back in the day. Like
Yeah.
they didn't care as much. It didn't seem
Right.
like it's nowadays. And he's like, "Will you slow your ass down? You're driving way too fast. You're going to end up in intensive care behind. But go ahead, get your ass to the hospital, but slow down." And went back and
Right.
got in his car. And it was
Yeah.
okay.
One of the funniest things I ever saw was a couple weeks ago when I was stuck here at the house when I was iced in and all of that. And I went through about a day and a half straight of just binging Cannonball stuff, right? I love the Cannonball Run. Not the movie, but I mean, I love the movie too. But this was all about like people trying to break the Cannonball record and the basketball and all of that stuff. But did a couple, like a day and a half straight of just different Cannonball stories. And there was one of them that was coming. So they were doing a coast to coast to coast. They're going New York to LA, back to New York, and trying to break that record,
Wow.
which is crazy. But so they were coming back from LA towards New York, and they've got a guy in Michigan Control at home on a computer, and he's like, "Hey guys, just letting you know, Like, you guys need to push it a little bit. They're coming through Colorado and all that, heading towards Oklahoma. And like, you're gonna have to push it because right now, like the time that you said you're gonna be in Oklahoma City, as far as the map goes, there's like major storms, like tornado storms. And it's like, oh man. So they push it a little bit. And they get to Oklahoma City and it just torrential downpour. And their spotter, like their mission control guy, sends them a picture, and they're literally going like, at this point 110 in like torrential downpour, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Chris, I'll get to that real quick. If you could hang on for a second, I will let you know what we're talking about, the bullet run. But they were going through just past Oklahoma City, and he sent a picture, and they were literally within, like, on each side of them, like 10 miles away, was a tornado on each side of the highway. And they're right in the middle going down the highway. And they're pushing through this thing, just trying to get through the storm and get ahead of it and all of that. And they do. They push through, and then they get out, and they're up there actually by Chelsea and Tulsa, over by not by there, but like Muskogee Turnpike, like kind of where you go north to go to Tulsa and all of that. That's kind of where they were, and they get pulled over. And they're like, "Oh man!" No, I'm sorry, they did not get pulled over. They had to stop for gas. They were running like a 60-gallon auxiliary tank.
Wow.
Blah 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 blah. They had to pull over and fill up, and there is a cop right there. And if you've ever watched anything and you know anything about the cannonball, like the cars are very distinctive. Like, like you can pretty much tell if you see one and you know what you're looking for, you can know like someone's doing a cannonball, right? But anyway, so like the only gas pump that was available was sharing with Highway Patrol. So they like, oh man, this is not going to work. Oh, they're all getting worried. They said, well, we got it. We can't waste time. We got to do this. So they pull up and they start pumping, and the Highway Patrol looks at them and sees like the 4 antennas on the back, and like all sorts of weird stuff on the car. And he's like, "You boys trying to break some records or something?" And he obviously knew what was going on. And it was the funniest thing I ever heard. And the guy was like, "No, sir, not at all." He goes, "What's up with the car?" Like, and he was like, "We're storm chasers, and we just got ahead of that last storm. So, hey, be careful. There's a big storm coming your way. Like, we're trying to get out of here, trying to get, into Arkansas and all of that." He says, "But there's some heavy stuff coming your way. So just, take shelter when it gets close." But he's like, "Will y'all be safe? Like, don't go too fast." He's like, "Oh, no, we're just trying to get ahead of the storm so we can kind of get set up when the storm hits Arkansas." Blah, 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 blah. They literally told the Highway Patrol they were a storm chaser. He's like, "Hey, you guys get out there on the road and be safe and all that." And they're going like 100. They're going like 110 in rain, and they're like, "Oh no, we're storm chasers." He's like, "Oh, we all be safe." It was hilarious. It was great.
Funny.
It was great. So Chris is talking about, real quick, I'll come back to you here in a second, but I know he's trying to get to bed. He said, "What's the idea for the people driving NRAM?" So we were talking earlier about going to NR8 Indianapolis there in April, and a lot of us are re-driving. And so I came up with an idea. I named it the Bullet Run, and it's kind of a cannonball type thing, right? Except it's not. It's a race, but it's not like a race. Like, you're not going for time in a certain way, but everyone's driving from different places. So your points and all that will be weighted upon your mileage from your home to Indianapolis. And, let's say our finish line is cool, because I looked it up, and from the convention center that the show's at, it is 4.8 miles to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So I'm going to set up the parking lot of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where the Indy 500 is. That's going to be the finish line. That's where we're going to meet up. Let's say it's Thursday at 6:00 p.m. If you're there before Thursday at 6, you're eligible for the prizes. If you're not, still show up. We're going to have a good time. But to be eligible, you got to be there. Let's just say Thursday at 6:00. So you can go, and you can just get there and drive as fast as you want and get there. And you'll get, let's just say you get like 50 points for every hour earlier than 6:00 you get there. So you can just drive and just get points and say, "Hey, I want to get there at 4:00, blah, blah, blah." and all of that. But we're also going to have like a scavenger hunt to where along the way, since we're going to the NRA and it's a gun industry thing, for every like gun shop that you stop at on the way and take a picture of in front of or whatever,
Yep.
You get points for that. For every like truck stop or whatever, like can't be just a gas station. It's gonna be like a truck, like a Bucky's or a Love's or one of these. You take a picture in front of those, or take a picture of some merchandise in there. There's going to be a list of things that tasks that you can do and take a picture of that will gain you some points. So if you're willing to take some more time and not just cannonball all the way there, then you can actually get more points by stopping and doing certain tasks. It'll be a scavenger hunt. Like I said, the finish line is going to be at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where the Indy 500 is going to be a few weeks later. That'll be fun, and then we'll have like prizes for the winners. So it's gonna be kind of one of those things. I'm still working on the prizes, not the prizes, but I'm still working on the points and all of that. And I'm trying to get about 8 or 10 people for this first time, and everyone's gonna get something. I'm gonna do like either a keychain or a hat or something. Everyone's gonna get something that participates in this. But if I can get 8 or 10 people that want to do that, and maybe we even do, if we get 10 people instead of doing 10 individuals, maybe we say, hey, we're going to do this in 2-car teams. So you pick of these 10 people, you guys figure out who your teammate is, and you can combine points or something like that. Like in a strategy, like if you and I were driving, and I've got an 8-hour drive, and you've got a 12 or 14-hour drive, I might sit there and say, hey, I'm going to cannonball this, and I'm just going to go. And every time I stop for gas or whatever, I'll take some pictures, but I'm not stopping at gun shops or gun ranges or anything. I'm just going to go. But you're willing to sit there and say, well, I can leave Wednesday and just take an extra, take my time or whatever that is, and I can stop and take pictures at this, that, and the other. So as a team, you can combine points. So I don't know if I'm going to do that or if I'm going to go straight up individual, but it's called a bullet run. And so I'll be sending out some information on that. More importantly, it does a couple things. One, it gets people out there driving to enjoy driving in our great country, because it's probably the easiest country in the world to drive in. Yes, the autobahns in Germany, but from America, like there's some beautiful drives in America. But two, I think it gives you something to have fun with while you're driving. It's not just, I got to drive for 8 hours and just drive. Now you're looking for things to stop at it and kind of gain some points. More importantly, I think it'd be kind of cool content, whether it's dash cams or whatever. It'll be cool content for our channels and all that. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be getting some more information out. I just came up with a logo today. I sent it to a few people. I'm calling it the Bullet Run. And we'll do it for a SHOT Show. We'll do it for different events, but this will be the Bullet Run, and it'll be the 2023 NRAM Indianapolis Run. It doesn't matter if you're 2 hours away or if you're 14 hours away. Like I said, everything's going to be weighted upon your distance from there. So it'll be kind of cool. Like if you only have a 2-hour drive, they might get more points for stopping off at different truck stops and gun shops, because there's only going to be so many of them in a 2-hour drive. Well, if you're going 14 hours, your point, you might have to get more stops because you have a longer way to go. I don't know how we're going to do that yet, but I'm working on that. I think it'll be fun.
Well, you could do,
yeah.
So you could add points for little things that people could film as proof, right? So
that's what I'm saying. You got whatever you do, it's got to be either a video or a picture of whatever you're doing, so we have proof of it.
Yeah, cut your camera on, like fastest fill up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
yeah,
100%. From the time you pull up to the pump, from the time you get out of the car to the time you get back in, right? Like
absolutely.
Fastest fill up. Then do maybe fastest drive through. Everybody drive through.
Oh yeah, stop and get something to eat. Sure.
Cut the camera on, right, and film your drive through, because if you've got.
Hey, and you know what? If you're pulling up to McDonald's and you tell them what's going on, maybe they make your food look quicker for you. You never know.
Yeah,
what's up, Juan? How you doing? ¿Cómo está? So I guess he's in Spain. That's kind of cool. But yeah. I mean, stuff like that. Not just stopping off at truck stops, or not just stopping off, but stuff like that. I think that'd be kind of cool. Like we could have a prize for. Like a $10 gift card for the fastest drive-through or the fastest food get, and maybe it's $10 Chick-fil-A gift card. We can come up with a bunch of different prizes and stuff like that, But I want it to be fun. I think it will be fun. I'm hoping everybody enjoys it. I hope there's a lot of people that want to participate. Like I said, this will be the first time, so this one's going to probably get a B. Honestly, it's going to be a little unorganized. It's going to be a little sloppy, but we got to work out the kinks and we got to work out how to do this. But um, I'm looking forward to this. I think that I've always wanted to do a cannonball, and maybe one day I will. I was talking with Chase, our buddy Chase, and we were talking a couple nights ago about both of us always wanting to do a cannonball. Maybe we don't do a full cannonball. Maybe we do like so. There's a southern route that a lot of the bikes, the motorcycles do for it, and they go from San Diego to Jacksonville, Florida. They go through Houston. I was like, well, why don't we do like the Houston to Jacksonville, or Jacksonville to Houston, or Houston to San Diego, or whatever, and do like a half a run just to see if we can like it. But here's the problem. I'm a good driver. I feel like I'm a good driver. I've been to 130 miles an hour before. Um, but here's the thing. Like as much as I'd like to think so, I don't know if I'm a good enough driver to sustain 110, 120 miles an hour for hours at a time. Now, the cars that they choose for Cannonball, they can handle that. They've been tuned. They've got suspensions. They're good cars. They can handle that. But just the fact of driving 110 to 130, sometimes up to 160 in certain legs of the Cannonball, like for hours at a time, I don't know if I'm a good enough driver for that. But maybe one day I would love to at least take like a half a Cannonball and experience that. I mean, I just the adrenaline rush would be amazing. But so that's where kind of this came out is kind of a Cannonball slash scavenger hunt type, having fun going to a place and no matter where we go, whether it's SHOT Show or Indy or most of the cities that NRAMs and USCCAs and obviously SHOT with Vegas, most of these are in big cities, and most big cities now have a motor speedway, whether it's a NASCAR or Indy or F1, to where I think it'd be kind of cool. Like I said, we're gonna do this one. The finish line is going to be Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where the Indy 500 is. That's where we're going to finish line, and that's where we're going to figure out the points and all of that and have fun there. But my goal is to, no matter where we're going, whatever trip we're going on, to find a local motor speedway, even if it's like a dirt track or something, that's where the finish line is going to be, to have like some kind of speedway be the finish line, which I think would be kind of cool and all of that. And ultimately being able to get sponsors for this, I think we could do that. And having like a cookout, sponsored at the finish line, all this stuff. These are all plans that I can see in a couple of years building to. But I'm really just looking forward to getting out and driving and having fun with it, and hoping everyone else that does get involved has fun with it and does their videos, takes their pictures. I love the idea, Chloe. I love the idea about the fastest fuel up, the fastest drive through, the fastest pit stop. If you got to stop off at the side of the road, I'm not saying you video that, but I mean, like, you stop off at the at a rest area and you start your stopwatch when the car stops, and you stop it when you get back in and turn the car back on. Be kind of cool. It'd be kind of weird, but I mean, there's stuff like that. I love that idea. Just little competitions within the competition, I think would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I can get in, I've drove 36, 38 hours straight. So like I'm okay with like driving for extended period of time. But I'm with
Mm-hmm.
you. That's usually cruise control set,
Yeah.
85, maybe 90,
Right.
type thing. But here's the thing. I mean, even if you're not going for speed, I mean, just to be able to do that, that's one of the reasons we enjoy. We head out here and we say it every year. We're like, okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
drive to Vegas, and we've got time, but we always get into Vegas like earlier than we expected to get
Yeah.
into Vegas, like
Yeah.
always, right? And that's just cool. It's like we didn't really push anything or try, and yet look at what we did. Like last year
Yeah.
was crazy, and we took a detour through California to do it
Yeah.
even. So
Yeah.
it's like um it's yeah, I agree with you. Like the whole idea of road tripping, driving. I mean, just the idea itself is fun, regardless of who wins or whatever. Just the stories you
Yeah.
accumulate, right?
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
And that's what's cool is to be able to sit around for a year or whatever, and especially at the finish line to sit around and talk
Yeah,
about those stories, right? And share those little clips and those videos, right? And then and
absolutely.
then and then ultimately share that with audiences, right? Too, and
Exactly.
tell those stories and and then you're talking about it. You've got things to talk about for like a year. I mean, how many stories do we got from all kinds of other things? We've talked about several tonight, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
so
yeah.
like we've got all kinds of stories from the trips we made and whatever. Um,
I think it'd be fun. You kind of brought up an idea. And usually you need three drivers to do a cannonball. Typically, now there have been guys that done it in two, and there's people that have done it solo, which is batshit crazy. But typically, the guys that go after the records that know what they're doing, that plan this for months, there's three drivers. You have a driver, you have a spotter, and then someone sleeping, and you just rotate. Whether it's 4 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours, that's up to the drivers. They just rotate. So you always got a driver, you've always got a spotter, and you've always and we're talking spotters. They'll have like thermal camera, like thermal. Almost like they look like rifle scopes. They very well could be like a pulsar thermal scope mounted on the dashboard, and they get it wired through Bluetooth or something to an iPad. So they have a thermal imaging, so they can drive at night and they
it
can
would have to
see
be
if
outside
deer.
the car, but yeah, I hear you.
What's that? Yeah,
It would have to be
they've got
outside the car for certain.
they've got it mounted on top, like
Yeah,
on top of the
yeah,
car,
yeah.
and it's Bluetooth or wired. I'm not
You
sure
can
how
see
they do, but
deer and
it's
stuff ahead
to,
of time. Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they're seeing deer, they're seeing engines from cops, or but mostly they're looking for deer and stuff running across the highway because especially if they're going. Most of them time it they're going through like that Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska area in the nights. They can just go 150, literally 150 all night to make up time because you can see forever.
Right.
And all that. Anyways, so you have three drivers. So let's just take like me, you, and Chase. That'd be fun to go. And a lot of these guys actually rent cars to do a cannonball.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so we can go like rent a car for a few days.
Get the
And
insurance on it.
yeah, but what I'm saying is we don't have to do the 150, the 110. We could go up and rent a car in New York and start. So the cannonball starts in New York at the Red Ball Garage in 1971 when the original cannonball. The guy who started cannonball, his buddy had this garage. He said, "Well, why don't we just go to the garage and we'll just start there." And the finish line is the Portofino Hotel in L.A. And it was a friend of theirs who at the time owned the restaurant, owned the hotel and restaurant and stuff in LA. And so that was the finish line. And now at the Red Ball, it's kind of discreet and all that. But the Portofino, very small, but it's very discreet, but it's very small, but it's there, is the finish line for Cannonball. So people that know what that finish line is. They take pictures next to it. It's pretty cool. But like, let's say the three of us go to New York and we rent a car. And it's going to take us 3 days if we want to. We're not going to stop and sleep. And we're not going to stop at a hotel. We're going to drive straight through, but we might average 80 miles an hour
Mhm.
and not try to break a record. But the three of us jump in a car and drive basically nonstop, except for filling up for gas,
Yeah.
drive nonstop to LA just
Well,
to
that's for
see.
two
Who
days.
cares about the time?
So I just pulled up Google Map, and
It's 2,800 miles.
this is not going to be precise. Yeah,
Yeah.
2776 is the
Do
shortest
from
route,
Red Ball Garage to the Portofino Hotel.
but um, Port. How do you spell it?
Portofino, Portofino,
Portofino,
Portofino.
Portofino Island Resort.
In LA. It's out in California.
Nope.
It's called the Portofino. Just do
Portofino Hotel and Marina, Santa
maybe
Monica.
Santa Monica. That's it. That's the one right there. That's the finish line. The start line is the Red Ball Garage in New York. I think it's in
Red
Manhattan.
Ball Garage, New York, New York.
That's it.
So that is the shortest route. Just pulling it up.
And they go down through
Yeah, that's 2,800 if you're going through Iowa and all of that.
Nebraska, Kansas,
That's 28.
Colorado,
Yeah, that's
Arizona,
28.
Nevada into LA.
That's 2,809 miles.
Yeah,
If you're
that's the route that
going,
everyone takes.
if
So
you
that's
go
the
the
cannonball
southern
route.
route, if you go the southern route, it's 27.96. So
Yeah.
either way, this is what's interesting. Either way, it's 42 hours,
Yeah.
according to this,
That's if
right?
you're going to speed limit all the way through.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. So you could, with 3 people, you could easily do that in a
Oh
day and a
yeah.
half. In a day
Oh
and a
yeah.
half, easily.
Yeah. For the longest time, so Ed Bolian and those guys broke the record because the last Cannonball was in 1979, and it stopped because the guy who was running it stopped because it was starting to get too dangerous. That he was like, people are, it's going to be. It started back up later on in the 2000s, but in 2013, Ed Bolian, who does VinWiki, great YouTube channel by the way, Ed and his crew did it, he did it like in 28 hours,
Yeah.
and that was by far by several hours the new record.
Yeah.
And then it got broken a couple of years ago during COVID at 25:09 basically. But we're talking in May of 2020, there was nobody on the highways because of COVID.
Yeah.
So the record got broke like 3 times in a month during COVID because there was no traffic. It was just boom. So
Right.
yes, they are considered the record, but a lot of people will still say that Ed Bolian still has the record because it was non-COVID. But before that, like the record was like 33 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're talking a day and a half.
Yeah.
And these are, so even if it took us 40 hours, because we're not going to try to go 110, we're going to go what we think is safe to not get a ticket, but have fun with it. But yeah, I think it's definitely doable. And if nothing else, bro, the memories and the stories we would have for that would be amazing,
Right. You would just have flights to New York, and then you'd have to get to it. Yeah. But if you got sponsors, I mean, that would be the way to go. But you'd have to get to New York or LA, and then you'd have to fly home from there. So
I didn't realize I was muted. Yeah. But and most of the time, these guys, now the guys are do it professionally. So the Cannonball is still known to be happening, but it's still kind of like a secret society type thing where it happens all the time, but people just don't know it. But the ones that do it consistently, trying to go, like, not just the normal people just trying to do it, but the people that doing it for the record, like, they're big in that community. Obviously, everything's sponsored. They're driving Audi R8s and freaking, Mercedes and all of these, BMWs, but they're sponsors. So it's not like they're spending the money on those cars. They're everything's sponsored. But for us, I mean, with maybe connections that we have in the gun industry, because a lot of gun people are car people also.
yeah, I think they would do something.
I think we could do it. We would have their stickers all in their car and do videos and all of that. I think we could probably get enough to sponsor the rental car, sponsor the flights up there, sponsor the gas, the food, and all of that. And all of that. I think we could get enough to sponsor, because wouldn't that be awesome content? Wouldn't that be an awesome thing for these companies to get involved with?
Yeah.
But maybe one day, man. Maybe one day. I think it'd be fun. I want to do it one day in my life, just to say that I did it. Not going for the record, just experience basically nonstop coast to coast.
Yeah, there's not any big cities. I mean, you're running south of Cleveland, south of Toledo, a little ways, south of Chicago, a little ways. You got to go straight through Des Moines, but that's Iowa.
The biggest thing that people talk about the traffic is either New York or Los Angeles, because
you got to run straight through Denver.
Denver's a big one. But here's the thing: people, they talk about they plan their route
Vegas.
to get through Denver, either like in the morning before. If you get through Denver before 6 a.m., that's the goal. Get through Denver before the traffic hits.
Right.
Yeah, you got to get through. You got to get through Vegas.
Denver and
once
Vegas be the biggest one. So
yeah.
But I think if you timed it right, you could potentially hit Denver, and then you could miss 5 o'clock traffic in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you would be rolling through California basically at night again.
Right. which means you'll miss the LA traffic, you know?
Some of it, yeah. It's bad there all the time, I'm sure. But
Yeah. But I mean, but I think it'd be awesome because you sit there and say, okay, if we can average 75 miles an hour, or if we can average it, because there'll be times we're going faster than that. There are times we might get, that's including all the stops, that's including everything. If you can average 75 miles an hour and use that as your baseline, you can kind of plan out. Okay, if it's going to take us X amount of hours to get to Denver, so what time do we need to leave New York to kind of get to Denver by X amount of time, by 4 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
I don't know. It'd be kind of fun. I would love to do that one day. We'd have a dash cam. We'd go live, and we would have someone do mission control, set the live stream. We'd check in with them every now and then, and all that stuff. We would document everything. It'd be so much fun. I think it'd be great fun. Then again, if, like, let's say me, you, and Chase were to do that, I might not ever talk to you fools again. Being in a car together for 40 hours might not be fun.
Possible. It's valid.
But yeah, it'd be fun. Well, listen, it is 11 o'clock. I've been going for, I don't know, an hour and 41 minutes. Had a great time for the first kind of speed limit 155 live stream. I don't know if I'm going to turn this into a podcast, eventually, maybe down the road, once you get the channel built up a little bit. Do this on a more regular basis, but every now and then we'll just pop in and have fun. And thanks for Clover for hanging out with me and talking cars for a little bit. I did tell people about our up and coming Ghost and Clover podcast, where that one's going to be kind of not just about guns. We'll be talking cars, we'll be talking food, music, movies, basically anything. So that'll be coming here in the next few weeks, months. But go check out. I'm going to give you a few minutes to talk about all your different channels that you've got going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm on the Clover Tech cards now, so not a whole lot's going to be happening on it, honestly, over the next few months, because the early 23 podcast season on the main Clover Tech channel kicks off next week. So
Yep.
That's the big thing, and then our Ghost and Clover podcast too coming up pretty quick.
Yep. Yeah, we're working on the back end of that stuff and trying to get everything planned and ready to go. But we're looking, March being the kind of the kickoff and all that stuff. So we're looking forward to that for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Like I said, if you're interested in guns and you like the gun stuff, go check out our main channel, Ghost Tactical. Go check out Clover's main channel, Clover Tac. He's also got the Clover Tac cards, and that's the sports cars and trading cards and all of that. So go check that channel out as well. But we're going to get out of here, and thanks for everyone watching. If you are watching this, if not, then we just had about an hour and 40 minutes of talking to ourselves, which is always fun to begin with. But you never know. We'll try to build this up eventually. But considering it wasn't scheduled, it was just kind of a spur of the moment thing.
Odds are we're going to be talking probably anyway. So why not?
This is true. Might as well do it live. So
right.
Thanks for Chris and for Juan for being out there and all that. And we'll see you guys soon. Take care.